Sri Krishna Devaraya belonged to the 1500s, while Napoleon Bonaparte III belonged to the 1800s. What is the connection between the both? And why did Napoleon make a reference of Sri Krishna Devaraya in the 1850s? There is a very interesting story that I got to know from somebody at Anagondi who belonged to the royal family of Anagondi, the descendant of the Vijayanagara Empire, who still resides in Anagondi in the King's Street and happens to be a very, very, very respectable, humble, intelligent, well-read man. I got an opportunity to meet him, and he interestingly asked me this question that we look history in silos almost always. And things get really interesting when you start looking at the references of one era in the other era, of one king when you're talking about the other king, and so on and so forth. So he interestingly asked me this question about why was there a reference of Sri Krishna Devaraya in 1850s by Napoleon when Sri Krishna Devaraya belonged to the 1500s. It so happens that there is a story that connects the both. When Sri Krishna Devaraya was touring his kingdom, and he happened to cross Puducherry because he was on the way to meet another king, he saw a house which was really well lit, and it almost gave him a feeling that this was a temple. So without a second thought, Sri Krishna Devaraya folded his hands, bowed in front of the temple like he was praying to God, until one of his ministers came running to him and told him that this happens to be the house of a courtesan, or a devadasi in other words. The king was furious. Being the king he is, and being the magnificent, glorious, respectable king he is embarrassed. Now he couldn't take it. So he wanted the building to be demolished. He wanted the building to be broken down at any cost. The courtesan by the name Ai came running to him, and she pleaded him not to break the house. Not to demolish the house. He did not listen, and he wanted the house to be brought down. She pled the king to construct a pond, and she would bring the building down herself. Her request was granted. She brought the building down and instead constructed a pond that served as a drinking water facility for people around in those days. We're talking about the 1500s. Interesting enough, in the 1800s, in Puducherry, there was a severe water scarcity, and the only water available was a salt water, and because of the sea, and there was no other option. Napoleon, since the French was colonizing Puducherry or Pondicherry, he brought his engineer, and they worked different ways and finally found this pond to be a solution that they could solve the problem of the drinking water. This pond really served well, and the French and the governor of Pondicherry apparently had written a letter to thank Napoleon for solving the water issue. Napoleon only had to say, "You should thank Sri Krishna Devaraya, who allowed Ai to go ahead and build the pond." This is how interesting things get when you start connecting the dots and start talking about different references in history that we could connect. See you again in the next video.